Hey guys, the following is going to be part two of Zakk and I's conversation together. Zakk's a Satanist, I'm a Christian, and I'm hoping to show that respectful conversation and exchange of ideas and viewpoints between people of opposing worldviews is possible, desirable, fruitful. So I hope that you enjoy. I hope that you're enlightened by this conversation, and so enjoy. I have added some section headings to help navigate the video a little bit better if you want to skip through and just watch the little parts that interest you on those section headings. So look down at the YouTube. In YouTube it should say like what question is asked or what topic we're covering in that little slice of video. So, all right, thanks guys, and see you later. Bye. It's recording.
Yep.
All right, we're back for part two here. Zakk and I. We've been talking a little bit beforehand, and we're glad that we can do a part two, and we're glad to just have a chance to. We hadn't seen each other in a long time. Last time I showed up a couple weekends ago, so we're glad to have this next chance to keep talking about the things we've been talking about. So
yeah.
This time, for a little bit of structure, I thought that it would be a fun way to do it, where we both, beforehand, we kind of came up with a few questions for each other. So instead of totally winging it on like what the topics will be, we have a little bit of, we just have written down some questions beforehand. We haven't really been able to think about our answers though, so it's definitely going to be like off the cuff, and should be interesting. So.
All right.
So the questions should range from like Satanism, Christianity, philosophy, religion. I'm hoping to get into politics a little bit, but we'll see how comfortable we are with. That can get pretty sticky sometimes, so we'll see.
I'm open for whatever.
So.
All right. You want to start?
Sure. So I guess I'll start with what are the biggest turnoffs to you about Christianity?
Okay. So I would say the biggest turnoff is the idea that everyone needs saving, and that mindset of, because you don't believe what I believe, you're damned in some way, and just not understanding that people are going to be different and have different upbringings and culturally different, and that it's somehow this huge mission, despite it being God's doing for people to be in separate cultures. Like, it's still this mission to bring people to that
one way of seeing things.
Yeah.
Any other
negatives?
negatives?
For sure. I also, and this actually, Ty, you can kind of.
Yeah, and we're gonna go back and forth, not just have it be like.
Yeah.
On
So
the spot.
one of my questions then to you was, basically relating along the lines of like, from the last time, was why would God create us and then even further create us separate in some way to animals and like other species? Like, why are we the special ones? And then with that mindset, do you think that there's mainly oppression throughout time because of Christianity? Not even so much religion in general, but mainly like Catholicism, Christianity.
Hmm.
And I think that is my biggest turn off. One of my biggest turn offs by it is the fact that through like the patriarchy and all, like hierarchy of just religion, like that specific religion.
Yeah, the power structure of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, man. So, why would God create a world? This is back to, we talked about it a little bit last time.
A little bit.
These things are so, I will take a stab at it.
Okay.
So I talked about the free will part of it, and I think that he created the world perfectly in the beginning. That's the belief of, that's the Genesis story, is like the Garden of Eden. Humans were put into a state of, the world was in a state of perfection and like goodness.
Okay.
And maybe perfection is too far, but God says like he created it and it was good. And then he creates human beings and they're very good.
Okay.
Pretty sure. And then I'd said like part of, well, so to answer a little bit of the other part of your question about like we're a special creation. Part of being a special creation is the fact that we are kind of like mini gods in the way that we are creative, and we have I think we have free will, and he didn't create us to be automatons. He created us to like have the autonomy to choose him or not choose him, or to make decisions that are right or wrong. So I guess what I'm trying to say is he didn't create the world as it is now. The world became what it is through sin, and Genesis tells the story about like the first sin, which is basically disobeying the one rule that God gave to his creatures. Mm-hmm. And that's a super deep story. It's like, I mean, there's the Garden of Eden and the serpent, but so through sin, then the brokenness comes into the world, and then we're all born with, it's just, and then the whole point of my faith is that God, in his love and in his sovereignty, has like, he's making a way for things to go back to the way that they ought to be. But we are in the middle of like the story that's happening where at the end of the earth, then Christ returns and the perfect world is restored, basically.
Okay.
I hope that answered.
It did, but I have more questions.
Okay.
So I guess then that kind of leads into, well, first, when I say like God created things this way, I mean like he created things like the world in the beginning, and then things kind of like evolved into where they're at now. Through, like, in your words, through sin. Mm-hmm. But if he knows what's going to happen and it's part of his plan, you could say that he created things with that in mind. Yeah. That was going to happen, and then he has the intent to, like you said, bring it back.
For sure. So
that still goes to my question of like, why do it at all, and then why make the consequence for not praising him and making him a part of your life and everything, why make the consequence so severe that it is eternal damnation?
You probably know that many Christians are like not convinced of the fact that like hell exists and eternal damnation. There's a whole like group of people that don't think that's true. Right. I'm still I mean, most things I'm still like in a state of like learning about them. Mm-hmm. So like the hell thing and the eternal damnation thing, I'm like, I think that's what I believe, and I think that's what Scripture teaches. Okay. I definitely can't explain all of the like, why would God do that way? I know that He created us to like, he deemed it way better to create us and to have this whole thing, he deemed that way better than not having it at all, like creating a universe void of life or whatever.
Yeah. So, just to go off of like what you had said about, you know, a group of Christians believing that hell isn't like an actual thing.
Yeah.
I do.
It's called universalism, where...
Yes. And then I also have the understanding that hell in the Bible has not actually been called hell very much. And the literal hell that's spoken of by Jesus is a burning city. And he's basically saying that hell is going to be eternal the same way that the city is constantly burning because everybody's throwing their trash there. But the actual...
Gehenna.
Yes.
Gehenna is the word for that.
And then...
It was a valley.
That hell is a concept of basically like the eternal disconnect from God.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, death is...
Yeah.
Hell.
Spiritual death.
Yes. So, I guess... I feel like that's something I can get behind a little more than an actual...
Like lake of fire where there's people...
Yes.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, it's not wise to have a literal... The Bible is so complex, and it takes, like, super wisdom to, like, actually discern what it's... I mean, some things, in a way, it can be accessible to anybody who picks it up and reads it, but in another way, like, you should not just... Christians that have a literal, like, hell is the lake of fire, and you're going to have worms, like, there's much more going on than just the images used. Like,
yeah,
it can be metaphorical, it can be literal, but...
So
did we disagree there, or did we...
I think that was kind of open. We agree that... I guess the main point is that we both agree for sure that the Bible should not be taken literally. But then that kind of sparks another question for me.
I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
Just parts of it where people have these dogmatic views about, like...
Okay. Okay.
I would be cautious, like, if a preacher is preaching about hell, you got to be really cautious about, like, the topic you're talking about. But, like, when it's the historical account of Jesus Christ coming to earth and living on, like, that's, of course, the historical.
That makes sense.
Anyways.
Yeah. So then, I guess it sparks another question.
Yep.
So would you say that the Bible is pretty much the main, if not only way that God has communicated that history and that idea?
I've been thinking about this a little bit lately. There's this doctrine of Christianity called the inerrancy of Scripture, which is like the Bible is everything. There's no errors. Every word is inspired and is true. And again, I think that that's true, but there's like a way that it's been abused, like to say that you're not allowed to like question anything about, like, I don't know, how old is the earth, or like were Adam and Eve hominids, or were they like look like you and me, or those kind of things. But I think, well, classically there's guys that talk about like the book of nature, and then the book of it's this saying, anyways, it's nature and then it's God's word. So it's, what's that saying?
Nature versus nurture?
No. Anyways, but basically God has not just revealed himself in the Bible. And I also, this is maybe a little bit less of a conservative view, I think like different religions say true things about like spiritual reality, human progress, and like the things that we know now that we didn't know back then say true things. Like, I think that everything the Bible teaches, and the Bible is inerrant and true in everything that it teaches, but it doesn't say like everything in it. Like it doesn't say the laws of physics aren't written in the Bible, or so that's not the only way that God's revealed himself, but it is, I guess, the only way that he's revealed like the story of Jesus, which kind of makes me say, then I guess that is everything, because that's the most important thing to know about. Did that answer any?
It kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Because I guess then my question to that is, if God wanted us to follow so strongly, why not communicate better than what has been done? You know, why have this book that's inspired people, humans, to write, and then have a bunch of times where you're supposed to take it literally, and then you know, open to interpretation, and then back to literal. You know what I mean?
Fair point. This is another huge. There's a philosophical thing called the hiddenness of God, and like Christian theologians are like, have always been asked that, like, why doesn't God just write in the clouds, I am real?
Yeah.
And basically, I think that like he has revealed himself, and like it's so clear that the universe could not have come from nothing. It's intelligently designed. The more we learn about like science and the deeper we go, the more it's like human DNA is a 3 billion letter long word, and it's like specific to you, and it's intelligent. Like, you don't just stumble across this kind of stuff. So I guess I'm a little bit biased because I'm a Christian. Okay. But I think like, and I think in scripture, it's like Jesus literally came and people were like, you're not the Messiah. He was literally standing there like being the Messiah. Mm-hmm. So human nature, I don't know. Okay. I think even if he communicated so clear, like I think he has communicated pretty clearly, and he's given it, like he's not just saying, he's not punching you and saying, believe in me. He wants you to like seek him and bow to him and say like, keep revealing yourself to me, but he's not going to coerce you into like making it obvious, I guess.
Interesting.
So kind of rambling, but
no, I think that was like, I don't know how else.
Decently
addressed
your question. Thanks. So I asked you, what are the biggest turn-offs about Christianity? What did you, can you say again real quick? And then we kept going, and I wanted to like respond to what you said quickly. With the first question, what's the biggest turn-off? Oh, it was humans need saving.
Yes.
And that's like, I'm like, we so clearly need saving. So I don't know if we could.
Yeah.
That's such a opposite conclusion.
Yeah, my issue with that is not so much the idea that, like, I'm not saying that we're not messed up.
Yeah, or perfect. Or...
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, basically, respectfully, who are you to say who needs saving, and who are you as someone who's only interpreting life through experience,
through your own view?
Yeah, like, who are you to say that this person who grew up in the Middle East or Africa
China or something,
anywhere else in the world other than Europe,
the West,
like, where, how is someone deemed in need of saving without it just being a blanket?
And then the damnation part is the other aspect of that. Objection.
Yes. And then also, I guess you could even go further with like the motivation behind saving is to get people to heaven. So then why would you promise this awesome thing to only a certain number of people? Mm-hmm. And if eternal damnation is just death and nothing after it, what is the point of trying to get to this so-called perfect world, which in my mind does not sound like a place that I want to go to?
Singing praises to God,
that sounds
over
awful.
And over forever.
With a bunch of people that look at me funny, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Ooh.
So, not today.
No, that's I feel you on that one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, a response that I would try to have would be, I mean, the point of Christianity is not to get people into heaven.
Okay.
Like, in a way that's like, on a surface level, that could be true, but like, I think that's that's a product of like the last couple hundred years of Christianity.
Okay.
Which is like the blind faith, and churchianity.
Makes sense.
The point of Christianity is to be in relationship with the God who created you. And being in relationship with the giver of life ends up like producing the life that's supposed to be, that I talked about earlier, about like Garden of Eden. And so that's the whole point, is like life in God. It's not like going to heaven and then these other people are going to hell. And then also, I am so passionate about like the diversity of the Christian faith, how diverse it is. Super, like, there are pockets of like Christianity where, or like experiences I've been a part of where it's like, this is so cool that it's like black people, white people, all kinds of people with tattoos.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's not like the white American Christians going to with their picket fence or whatever.
Yeah.
Christianity should be the most diverse, and I think when it's being lived out truly, then it is. And of course, there's room for like, I'm also passionate about like, there are differences between people, and that's totally cool too. Like, there's all black churches and all, I don't know, there's inner city churches and country churches, and like all those manifestations of Christianity are cool too. But in the end, it should be this unified, we all worship Jesus. So I'm passionate about that.
Okay.
Like in Revelation, it talks about like every tribe and tongue and nation will like be worshiping God. Okay. So people are afraid of like, if something's different, then they fear it and they demonize it. That's like human. Yeah. So Christians are no better than other people or other groups who, they say, that guy has tattoos, he's weird, he can't come in here, like, he's scary. I don't know. And so
I do, I'm not like trying to emphasize.
I'm not trying to say I keep saying that guy with tattoos.
That's a good example.
I know,
because it does happen, but I am definitely aware that there are many Christians that are open to whoever joining the church. But a problem that I feel like I've seen that seems consistent is there's always something where judgment does play a part, whether it's, homosexuality being a sin, or or in my case, like mental health being overlooked because you're either possessed or being touched by the Holy Spirit. And so that would be, I don't know, that would be my only argument, I guess, that
Christianity is definitely a human, like, it's a human attempt to, so I would always be like, I know that you have, like, so many people have these stories about, like, I grew up as a Christian and now I'm not. That's like 90% of America almost. Except for the new generation who just has no clue what even the Bible is, or anyways. Where was I going?
So you had just answered. We were talking about my first question of like,
how did I just forget that?
I don't know. You were saying
judgment.
Judgment, yeah.
So it's a human institution and it's imperfect, and there's going to be like, of course, things that are like not perfect about it. But I think like judgment is so important too. There's this whole like, don't judge, which is true. Don't judge lest you be judged. But that doesn't mean don't judge. It just means like be careful about like, it's like check the log in your own eye before you point out the speck in another person's eye. It's just like check yourself before you, and I think it would be treating somebody differently. Okay. But we have to make judgments every day. And it's hard, but Christians have to make judgments about like things that are unpopular that they believe are true about like how God's created men and women to be together and not the same. That's such a controversial thing to say. So, but I mean, people that homosexuals should be welcome to walk in the church and sit there without feeling. But that's like, oh, it's so much to ask to like have a gay couple come in and then like, of course the people are going to be like, like feeling it's so hard. But it's just love love is like literally the only thing that matters. So what does it look like for me as a Christian to love this gay couple that just walked in the door? That's what a Christian should say to themselves. Anyways.
Nice. That's good. You got another question?
Well, so we've been talking about Christianity a lot. Maybe we could, I mean, I have 10 other questions, but maybe we could finish off this little section of just by talking about Satanism quickly, which is you are a Satanist, right?
Personal Satanist. I don't subscribe to any organized
non-theistic
anything. Yes, because even
so I guess I'll say what I think it is and you correct what I like. If I could tell you what a Satanist is or what you believe.
And by no means am I an expert on Satanism. This is a new thing for me too.
So Satanism is self, capital S self, rather than capital G God. That's one thought I had before I came.
That's one way to put it.
So it's like putting yourself in the driver's seat rather than having God be in the driver's seat. It's super focused on just human rights and treating people kindly with kindness and respect in a secular way.
Yes.
And it's anti-religion, Christian.
I wouldn't say anti-religion.
Okay.
Because
certain Satanists probably would say that, but you're.
I don't even believe that an official member of the Satanic Temple or any type of Satanist would say anti-religion.
Yeah.
Because it is just an idea that there should be plurality and freedom to do what you want to do as long as it doesn't harm anyone. And I mean, that's the basis of all the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple is just basically.
Can you list them real quick?
I can't off of memory.
You have to get them.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But as far as anti-religious, like I've said before, it's not my goal or job to turn someone away from any religion. I want people to practice what they want to practice, and I hope that they can find peace in that, but also keep the respect of, and this goes off of what we were just talking about, with feeling like people need saving. I don't feel like anyone needs saving, so I don't have this agenda to carry out, because if you believe in Christianity or what I believe or any religion, there's no different end goal for us. It's all just going to be into nothing.
One thought I have and question I have is so you were talking to me earlier about the song you played last time really affected me more than some other Christian people that you've showed it to.
Yes.
And so there's such a hard, it's like the church and state debate, how should religious people be able to hold public office, this whole secular and sacred, how do we marry the two? And I guess I don't even know what the question's going to be, but I'm my Christian faith is everything, and how could I not be like trying to reach the unsaved, and like so there's kind of this push from people to like, you can be whatever you want to be as long as it doesn't like, as long as you don't believe it too hard.
Okay.
And you don't start to like try to have like pro-life agenda or have your Christian beliefs be like in society, as long as it's like behind in your own home. I don't know if you have any thoughts about.
So the first thing I want to touch on is your words of sacred and
secular.
Yeah. So sacred by definition is a human construct. Sacred is not a thing outside of the realms of religion. So making something sacred and secular together is, in my mind, against the church and state, like trying to separate the two, because there is no way to do that, because you would have,
like, somebody can just say this mug is sacred.
Exactly. There's no guideline really. It's just basically because it's old to some people is seen as sacred. And no, I'm not trying to belittle anything that's sacred to anyone. I'm not trying to like talk down on the Bible, because to some people it is very significant. But to say that there can be a marriage of the two, then implies that everyone who remains secular has to acknowledge these things as sacred. But that shouldn't have any part. In my mind,
it's an impossible.
I
think.
To answer your question, I guess, is like, how do you have like Christian values and become, a member of Congress or something?
Yeah.
I think the main thing about it would just be to do these things that should be for the betterment of society, not under the name of God.
So you should always have this check on what you're doing as like, it's almost like a humility or a like, it's like a, I don't know. If I was in Congress, I would always have to be telling myself, don't just do this because it's your conviction. Make sure it's like gonna be the best thing for everybody, type of thing. I don't know.
Like you come to your own conclusion, not in the name of God, not in the name of any religion that you're trying to. Because then that is when it starts getting seen as like you're trying to indoctrinate and instill beliefs when they shouldn't be there at all. Because and as we talked about last time, like is very much possible to have morals and have an understanding of being a good person without religion.
Yeah. I would say that that's part of I talked about the nature, and I still can't think of the thing. It's God's word and then God's book of nature, which is like creation and how we're wired. I think all people are wired with like the conscience to know that I don't murder people because that's wrong. That's
what some
built
people aren't
into us.
And I think that's an interesting concept.
Like psychopaths.
Yeah. Like there are people that just physically do not have that wiring in their brain, and then still can be good people based off of society and that's why I was talking about like a normal. I think there is very much a normal, and part of that is seen as like how you function with society.
Lofty. I said that last time.
You did.
Lofty things of which we speak.
You want to keep going, or
how long's it been? 33.
Yeah.
I kind of want to keep going just for a few more minutes.
We'll go however
all
long
day.
you want to. Yeah.
We got to one question.
I mean, to be fair, we've touched on some of my questions because of that one question.
Good.
So then, can I challenge something from last time? Because I'm curious. So last time you had said, under the atheistic rule of communism, there's been a lot of way more deaths.
Mass death.
Yes.
Is only
So the atheistic communism basically being from what I understand was like 19 70 or 1917 to like 1999 or something like that.
Yeah,
between
with the fall of Soviet Russia.
Yeah, so that being a huge number
20th
game,
century, basically.
Yeah, and then, I mean, because even like communist China is not atheistic. There's very much like other religions acknowledged. So if you take that one window of time, there are way more deaths in that compared to the Crusades.
And it's just because there's more people on Earth.
Exactly. But then also,
it's a little bit of an easy, like a Christian. It's a little bit of like a cheap point that you're trying to score.
No, because I get like the people say the Crusades all the time. Like that's the only time that they can ever quote is like a mass
religious violence.
Yeah,
type thing.
But I don't know if that should be.
So what's your question?
My question is, would you consider things that are more recent as religious endeavors like the Crusades, or do you think after that religion just didn't matter, you're just going to be a horrible person, ruler, whatever, despite whatever you believe or don't believe?
I'm confused.
Okay, so basically we could talk all day.
You're talking like recent in the last 20 years now?
Recent in the last like 100 to 200 years.
Are you thinking of religious violence that's been...
Yeah, just the whole scope of like, for example, like the Holocaust. Okay. We talked about, Hitler was proclaimed a German Christian.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking is, do you think at that point religion has anything to do with that group of people? Because if they're religious, if they know right and wrong and they still do this.
The Germans?
Yes, well, the Nazis in particular.
Yeah.
Because not all Germans were for that.
Yeah.
But then going back to like on the same side of that coin, like Stalin's regime, like he's an atheist. Like there was an atheistic communist intention, and that still caused a lot of deaths. Like, do you think? So then, what I'm saying is like, do you think religion has anything to do with good or bad?
I'm still a little confused, but I would stick to my assertion about like atheism as a descriptor of like, it's a little bit like kind of a weak, like just labeling it all as atheistic is kind of imprecise, because I know that the Hitler as a Christian example, and then like Taoism and Chinese religions and stuff. But I would still I don't know if this is even addressing your question. I was confused about the question still.
Okay.
But I would still maintain my charge that like only like communism is an atheistic, like Marxist, collectivist. That's all like a worldly. It's like it's a godless system, and the leaders, like Hitler calling himself a Christian, first of all, is like he was not a Christian. He did not have the Holy Spirit. He did not serve Jesus by doing what he did. So,
I agree with that.
yeah, I know. Yeah, not to say you thought otherwise.
I guess maybe to.
I still don't know what you're.
So I guess to clarify, and you kind of said it, was like. I guess when you said like.
I would say the Catholic Church is and that's the Catholicism, that like the power structure that arose in the medieval, that is kind of a little bit more on the level of like the 20th century, that injustice that happened in the name of Christ is, I guess, probably the biggest example of like something that's comparable to a regime that purges society of undesirables or something.
Okay, so that touched on my question.
Okay.
I don't know if I have any other good ones. So it was. You said the oppression. We sort of talked about it already. The rise of power and just that mindset of controlling people. And if you want to go political instead of religious completely, we could do that. So with that segue,
sure.
So you got power and oppression that could be seen as caused by religion. I'll just say religion in general, because I don't think any religion is totally void of.
Hindus and Buddhists.
That seems to me like more of a lifestyle than a religion.
Yeah.
It's more of like a fundamental structure.
And definitely Islam, the violence of Muslim.
That's a whole.
But I think Hindus and there's some violence. There's some historic thing about like Hindus and Muslims. Well,
sure.
Hindus and Buddhists.
I'm sure, but I don't know enough.
That's just human
nature
and history is that.
So politically, how do you feel about? Now I'm going to say this as a blanket term and kind of explain what I mean. So like my body, my choice, further from like abortion or anything like that, but just as a whole of you are your own person. It's your choice to do with your life what you want.
Yeah.
So that could mean abortion,
drug use,
human rights as far as like, same-sex marriage,
doctor-assisted suicide if you feel like dying.
I can 100% talk about that as well because I've got some points about that.
Oh my gosh.
So what's your stance on?
Well, I'm pro-life.
I figured.
No. Super complex, emotional, triggering. People just talk past each other. Mm-hmm. The abortion topic is like the most prominent, probably, of that.
Okay.
Of the bodily autonomy.
And that is something that I don't even really feel like is necessary to talk because we're both men.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think, in my opinion, we have much say in what we know about that.
We contribute 50% of the sperm or of the life that's...
But we don't carry the child.
Terminated.
We don't develop the
But you think surely guys can like have a place in the discussion, right? It shouldn't just be like, shut up, you're a guy. You could never know about
I don't think any discussion should be shut up, you're this, you don't know anything.
Sure.
But I don't think that laws should be made against anyone from someone who is basically the oppressor in some sense. You know what I mean? Like, in any capacity. Like, I think there should be a conversation.
Why'd you use that word, though?
Because I think...
Like a white congressman making a white guy...
An old white man making laws about... that would involve race or body autonomy or sexuality or anything. I don't think...
There's certainly the issue of the legal part of it and then the moral part of it. So, like, maybe just because it's immoral, in my view, doesn't necessarily mean that it should be illegal. Type of there's the two sides to the but so we are talking about abortion.
Well, I wasn't planning. I mean, I wasn't trying to, but I guess
it's my fault probably.
I'd rather, because we could go on all day. I'm sure everyone that would watch this has their own opinions and have heard other people's opinions. It's a very major conversation that's in the forefront of any type of political
debate.
Which
should be discussed, right, with people that have good faith, meaning like I think you probably hold a genuine point of view and you think I have a genuine. Like, we have got to rediscover the dialogue.
I definitely agree.
That's the point of this podcast.
Exactly.
Anyway, so bodily autonomy and the person's right to do with themselves what they wish.
Yes.
So what's what are my views on that?
So I guess to just make it more structured, we can start with the last one you mentioned would be like, for example, like assisted suicide.
Yeah. Well, so as a Christian, believing in the Creator who created us special and like of special dignity and worth and value. Like human beings are different than animals. I know that we're animals in some way, but we also, I think, I mean, it's so clear in my point of view that there's something about us that's super special. And then so along with that, I would say God cares about respecting and preserving and like improving humans' lives. And then so for me, then I would take that personally as like I would want to defend, I don't know, I would not want a society where, I don't know, I would want a society where life is respected rather than like you can go to any old doctor and he can just shoot you with a drug and you're dead. Or you can go to, so there's just, it's like, it's so hard when it comes down to like specific like policies or the specifics of it, but in general I would just want a society that values life rather than one that thinks it's like that in what and how it's set up and how it's managed and the laws that are there that says that life is pretty much trivial, which I think we are sliding into a society that, I mean, we've been there, which is like humans are a cancer on the planet.
Yeah.
Abortion's fine. It's all fine. It's all good because we're all just gonna die. I don't know. That just is like, there's no hope there.
Okay. I definitely, the like nihilistic...
That's a loaded answer.
The nihilistic idea of like, you know, we're just, everything's going to come to an end anyway, so why does it matter? Yeah. I think that should be a very like personal thing. Like,
so that shouldn't be part of public policy either.
I completely agree with that.
Nihilism.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like I don't think, because I agree on that term, like nothing does matter. So why?
You don't think anything matters?
No. Because it's literally, in my mind, just...
Why would we have this discussion and put this podcast on?
Because it matters to you. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, like, I am not the judge or, the main person to say whether something matters or not. And just because I think something doesn't matter doesn't mean that someone else is going to think that same way. So we should respect each other's opinions on that, and that's why there should be, in my mind, no overreach, whether religiously or nihilistically.
Yeah.
But I think there's an interesting concept to things, like thinking things don't matter.
We're about out of battery.
Oh, okay.
So we got about 2 or 3 more minutes.
Okay, I'll try and answer or touch your answer, whatever. So, with things not mattering, that gives you the realm to enjoy things and enjoy life as much as you want, because at the end of the day, we're all going to end up in the same place, in my opinion. And then, to touch on, you had said God wants to give us, like, our best, like, he wants to give us the means to better ourselves, and... from what it sounded like was like to value life, then we would get, you know, cures for illnesses, and
I guess
so then my point would be, at some point assisted suicide would be that cure of that suffering.
Yeah, and that's
so I don't believe you should be able to just walk in.
That's a super complicated ethical question, is the euthanasia thing. Yeah, for sure. So is abortion.
Yes. But I think there should be specialists amongst any realm of that, and time taken to really think about it.
Mm-hmm. Got 9%.
Okay.
Oh man. How do we tie it up into a bow? I have a couple comments.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, maybe.
With your worldview, it seems like it's so much of like it's up to the individual person, and like everybody has the right to their own thing, their own beliefs, And I'm just always I always have this thought in my mind, like, that just cannot work, though. And we're like bearing the world is so chaotic and crazy because of that worldview. Like, that's what the dominant view is. Like, you're allowed to, secular humanism is basically, well, there's a couple, which is like the Marxist. There's still the Marxist communist worldview out there. There's the secular humanist, like, basically is what your worldview is. I would say is
okay.
like human centric. Everybody's got the right to do whatever they want, basically. And I'm just like, that is why there's so much chaos, is because there has to be a foundation of, like, there's a God who has laws of nature and he has moral laws, and if we follow those, if we just submit to that, that's how the world would be so much better, I think. And then one more thing is, I lived a life of, like, pursuing. So when I talked about my story about, like, walking away from God and living this self-centered life in high school and college. And I, like, lived the personal, like, living in the moment, doing the pleasurable, whatever I wanted to do, and not just, like, physical, not just, like, sinful stuff, even, like, playing basketball when I should have been studying, or just pleasure in general.
Yeah.
I lived that out to, like, the logical extreme, and it was like, so that's a personal, for me personally, that's powerful example of, like, that's what happens if that is lived out, and I, like, went crazy and almost died. So last thought.
Yeah.
From you.
So I will say, I have said, you know, obviously, like, we do things for ourselves, and we sort of are the masters of our own universe.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also said that they're under the terms of a society.
Yeah, normal.
Yeah.
Norm.
Yeah.
But it's the Christian norm. That's the West that's been so prosperous, and, like, America's been amazing with all of its flaws. It's the foundation of, like, all men are created equal. Human rights comes from, like, a God that created all humans as equal. Because otherwise, without that, it's like, I'm stronger than you. And who are you to say that if I murder you, who cares if it's... I don't know.
So I guess
I'm getting triggered.
Yeah, it's okay.
We live in such a Christianized context that we, like, forget about how important, like, the norm is not what we have, and we're losing it.
I think you can reach that normal and that proper society without God, because that just does seem to be, like, proper etiquette and morality is, and I don't think you need a religion for that.
Yeah.
Because like you said, like,
that's like the Enlightenment rationalist thinkers who are like, we can do this without the Catholic Church telling us what to do.
I 100%.
It's common sense what's right and wrong.
Yeah. And I think I wouldn't say I'm a, like, humanist, because I think that's a little narcissistic.
Label you there.
No, you're good. Because I
try to, like, think about the broad.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
When I talk about, like, ourselves and our society, I mean also cohesively in the society of other species.
Gotcha.
You know, we are all a part of this existence, all experiencing consciousness in these different, like, avenues. And so
in a way, it's super individual, but it's also living in a community too.
Yes.
And those things have to, like, be balanced.
Yes. And I think
That's
any type
amazing.
of religion or obsession over something like that can cause that mentality to skew a little bit, as far as, like, like,
For sure.
Christianity can keep you from thinking, like, oh, I'm stronger than you, so I can just do whatever I want to you. Well, but then you create the hierarchy of who needs saving and who doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, people can take, in the name of Christianity, or any religion, can take that as, oh, I am a Christian, I'm better than you, let me make you better.
Yeah.
by following exactly what I believe. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which I know is not.
It's not real Christianity, but
I
know there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that are that way.
Yeah, and but it looks
We
like
better wrap it up.
Yeah.
We're at like 4% here.
Okay.
But, thanks for sticking with us, people. If you watched this long,
How long was that? Oh, okay.
so we might try to do. We'll see about part 3, but it's
Yeah.
been fun.
Yeah,
And thanks for the conversation.
of course.
Peace.